right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you. I know we're in the midst of football season with a huge game on the weekend, and of course the Tigers in the playoffs. Excited about that. But it's hockey season, and everybody over here is fired up to get going. I thought what I'd do is I'd make a few comments in a couple different areas and kind of get us caught up, and get you guys caught up as to kind of where we were, where we are, and what we're looking ahead to. And
You're
then
excited enough about the Tigers to move your damn green and white game to like 8 o'clock that night?
At this time, I'm not fielding any questions. Fortunately, this is cable, based on some of the presentation of his question. But there is a conflict. Major League Baseball must not have got our schedule in time, huh? Fred. Anyway, our off-season physical conditioning was real good. Our team chemistry is really coming together. We have a small freshman class I'll talk about a little bit, but with only 4 players, which is quite a difference from where we've been the last 2 years in particular. And you know, when I look at the last 3 seasons and I look at opening night, I think 2 years ago, we had 9 new players, not all freshmen, a couple transfers, but 4 first-year defensemen in the lineup. 7 freshmen opening weekend last year played, and then we have up to 4 potentially who could play this year. So that's a dynamic that's definitely relevant and a little bit different. We do have a little bit of experience now. Areas that we really like about our team, I mentioned physical conditioning. I thought it was our best off-season. We challenged the guys when our season was over to go home. We didn't have guys come back early given the renovations at Munn. We also wanted them to get a nice fresh mind set before the season started. I held my breath to see how they would come back, and based on our physical testing, it's been the best in 3 years. And so we like our physical strength and conditioning where we're at today to start the season. And I think more importantly was the sign of the commitment that was made by the guys in the off season. So that was really good. Another thing we like is we really have some emerging leadership on our team. You know, when you have a younger group like we did the last 2 years, it's not always comfortable for freshmen and sophomores to kind of emerge in those roles, and that's where the bulk of our numbers were. And that's not to take away from the juniors and seniors we had, but we have bigger numbers in those younger classes. And so it's nice to kind of see those guys start to emerge. As you know, we named Michael Farentino our captain last April. He's done a good job to this point. We will add some additional assistant captains prior to our opening weekend of the season against UMass. And that's been an ongoing process a little bit. But beyond that, we have a number of guys who are really kind of evolving in leadership roles on our team, and that's really good. Group chemistry. We've done some team building exercises, and just listening to the players. I haven't got a chance to spend the kind of time that we'll ultimately spend with them, but listening to them and their comments being this is so far the closest team that they've been on since they've been here is a good sign. So we're happy about that. We do have, while we're still fairly youthful, we have lots of sophomores and juniors, and then of course the freshmen. We do have more experience because a lot of those players had really baptism by fire when they came here. They had to play. So we have some experience this year, which is nice. Our goaltending is proven and experienced in Jake's case. Certainly we have a freshman come in, but he's got no pressure to play immediately. We expect Jake to play lots and perform very well. And we demonstrated last year that we have the ability to defend. And with the exception of a couple games where scoring got away from us, we thought we did a pretty good job with a young group and defending, and we think we'll just get better this year. The real question marks coming into the season, our ability to score. It's been a question mark for 2 years, and while on a per game basis we crept up last year, not enough, not in a meaningful way that made a difference in winning and losing. And so when I look over the last 3 years, or just last season, the number of 1-goal games that we played in, the number of games, I think it was 24 games if I remember, we scored 2 goals or less. That's a lot of games when you play 34 games, you know, or 35, whatever the number was. So we've got to improve our goal scoring. And we think that as our team's evolving, that's going to take place. There are going to be players who will emerge to do that. With that, I think the other areas that we have to get better at, our special teams have to get better, both our power play and our penalty kill. Our ability to execute at a higher tempo has to get better, and that's been a real focus for us really the last couple of years, but now that we have a little more experience, I'm hopeful that we can be better at that, because we want to play fast, we want to play with possession, we want to play on the attack, but it's blocking and tackling in our game, passing and receiving, making plays in tight spaces. Those are the kinds of things that we have to do a better job at a high tempo so we can play the way we want to play. We have to improve our ability to win close games. We played a lot of close games, a lot of one-goal games. Last year, I think we saw from 2 years ago losses turn into ties, and of those ties, I think our record was like 1-2 and 7 ended in ties. Our last game of the season was in overtime, you know, and we ended up losing that game. So we've got to move those games, take another step, and move many of those games into the win column, which will help build our confidence and certainly the results that we're looking for. And I think the other thing we have to do, as we improve our mindset, gain confidence, is we have to improve not just winning at home, but we got to be way better on the road. And I thought we competed hard, but we want to get results. So that's where we're at. We have been practicing in the NCAA, restricted time frames. Right now, we've been on the ice as a team for up to 2 hours a week. The players have organized themselves at times where they've been able to go on the ice. Our strength training sessions have been really good. Our on-ice sessions have been really good, although limited, and we're all anxious. I know the players are real anxious to get going come Saturday. So Saturday we'll have a 2-a-day practice. We practice in the morning, then we have an open practice with all the buzz going on for football. We'll practice at 10 in the morning, and then the open practice is at 4. And then we can attend the football game. We'll have our green and white game on Saturday. I believe that somebody might have mentioned that conflicts with the Tiger game, but we can address that later. And then we get ready for an exhibition on Tuesday against Windsor, and then we can build towards playing UMass on our home opening weekend in mid-October. So with that, happy to field questions.
Tom, with all the talk about improvements coming to Munn, is hockey like football and basketball? Have schools recruited against you because of Munn in its current state?
Well, facilities is always an issue that you deal with in recruiting, and we think we have a terrific facility. We think there's great history here. You just got to look over your shoulder and see all those banners hanging, and we certainly recruit to that when players are here. Obviously, over a period of years, facilities change, amenities change, and so forth. So is facilities a part of recruitment? I'm sure it is. We've been recruiting, telling people all along that we're working towards the improvements that we're all starting to see. So I don't expect facilities to be an issue for us. I expect facilities will be an asset for us, as it always has been here.
Tom, I'm curious, everyone's in the best condition, because coaches kind of say that every year. Sounds like you're genuine. What's that about? I mean, is any of it about maybe guys that have been here are tired of losing and they'll do anything they can to take the next step up, or is...
I mentioned it was a commitment, Fred. That's what I'm taking away from it more than anything else. It's the commitment we're looking for. It's the mindset we're trying to create. Our goal is to retool our program to have a championship culture, and that starts with your mentality, your expectations. And that means you're committed all the time, not some of the time. I pointed out to our guys, just following a guy like Derek Jeter and look at how he's approached his career and the success he's had. It's not by coincidence. It's not just God gave him talent. He's worked real hard at producing the kind of career that he has. And you listen to some of his comments, and he talks about he's no longer prepared to make a 365-day-a-year commitment. And that's what it takes to be an elite athlete today, and to hang banners like this. And so, we want to learn from others' success, whether it's on our campus, when you look at football or basketball or other sports, or guys like Jeter. We try to make sure that we expose that to our players if they're not seeing it. And so for us, to me, I'm not just saying it. I would tell you that I'm disappointed if our guys came in the worst shape of the 3 years. I'd be very frank about it. Now, that doesn't mean anything. We haven't scored a goal, we haven't won a game. But in the body of work, coming back to campus with a youthful group, we're seeing that mentality that we're looking for and that we've been trying to really seed since coming here. And that's the first test. And it was a good one. So I'm real excited about it. And I will tell you, I was nervous about it because we've had the guys on campus pretty much all summer the last 2 years. So I was really worried if they go home, what's that going to be like? But they showed what they were capable of. So we're real happy about that today.
Tom, when you have your freshman class rated number 10 by .com, and they don't even mention Dylan Pavlik, can you just talk about how good these freshmen can be, and maybe how good you need them to be this season?
Well, I think it's a real good freshman class, and it's coming off a real good freshman class from last year. And I think that's what's important, is to put some consecutive groups together to build our talent level and the depth on our team. This group, what I'm excited about is we have good intelligence in the group, and I'm talking about hockey intelligence. They have championship. I don't want to diminish their academic intelligence, by the way, I'm not inferring anything. But they have championship experience too, and that's really important. The guys that come from the national team program have college games, Division I games of experience under their belt already. They played in world championships at the U18 level. Josh Jacobs won the Clark Cup in the USHL. That's not an easy thing to do. And he went from a team his first year that lost a lot and was part of changing that culture and elevating that team, and he took a leadership role on that team to help them win that championship. Carson Gatt, he did the same thing in high school. During his time at Catholic Central, I believe won 1 or 2 state championships. So they have that mentality, which to us is of great value. They'll be able to come into an environment which I think is really healthy for them, because now they're going to be playing with some players that have experience, where, Travis Walsh and Johnny Drager and Rhett Holland and, some of the other guys, and I mentioned R.J. Boyd. When those guys came in as defensemen, they really didn't. After, year one, we pretty much lost 7 of 8 defensemen. So those guys came in and they just had to play. And they didn't get to play with. The only returning defenseman we had back on the team was Jake Chelios, who had played 1 season. So it's a very good class. It meets some needs that we feel we have on the team. There's speed, there's good skill, there's good hockey IQ, there's some size. Like if you look at our team today, up and down our roster compared to 3 years ago, we're bigger, we're stronger, we're faster. That's been one of our objectives. This group adds to it.
Tom, with that come raised expectations. You talked about the youth and experience the past few years. What are the realistic expectations for this group? Is this an NCAA year for these guys? Do they need to make this NCAA run?
Well, it sure would be nice to be able to get ourselves in a position to do that. Do they need? That's a want. We always want to. And I guess I'd put it like this, is that we're going through a process. We have to stay true to the process and see it through. It is working. It is working. It may not move as fast as any of us want to do it, but I really believe in what we're doing, and I believe our team does, and I know our staff does. As we go through that process, as I look today, we can see the corner. We can see the corner. The question, can we turn the corner? And that's really, when I talk about things that are question marks for us, can we do that this year? Can we make that turn? Because as I compare our team, the first team I had here, and so it's not easy to compare it, but that team made the NCAA tournament. Now we had a superstar in Torrey Krug who really emerged to superstar level that year. As we sit today, I don't know if we have that player on our team, but going into that year, we didn't know Torrey Krug would elevate to that level either. I would say our forwards, we probably have as much depth or talent on this team as we did there, at least I think we do. Our defense has not as much experience as we had on that particular team, especially when you take really a game changer like Krug out of it. And in goal, I think we're as good as we've been since I've been here. So that team made the NCAA tournament. Whether or not this team does, I don't know. Our schedule this year is very demanding, so it presents opportunity, through your strength of schedule, both within the conference and outside the conference. But at the same time, it'll be very demanding. So I think that's certainly a target for us. We'd love to get into that event again, and we expect to get there and stay there. But that will be the biggest question mark for this team. Can we turn that corner?
Most fans' perspective, Tom, is football and basketball where coaches get immediate recruits in and can make a change within 1 or 2 years. With you, this is the start of your 4th season. This is the first freshman class that you've entirely recruited, and you're going to be in your 8th year before you have a group of your own seniors. Is there a way to fix that, or is it just where hockey is? It just really can't change because of the Canadian dynamic and the pro dynamic? And are you able to take a deep breath now and look at, okay, this is really the beginning this year?
Well, I guess, when you say fix it, it depends what people would think would be fixed. I very consciously, when we came in, we assembled our new staff, there were a number of committed players that were coming to Michigan State, just like there are today. If I were to leave today and somebody else were to come in, there's a number of committed players here, for the next several years. That's just the way the dynamics line up in our sport, which makes it very unique. And so we fulfilled those commitments, which I believe the last one was Joe Cox. And he made a great impact on our team, and he came in last year as a freshman. So yeah, this is our first full class that has finally gotten on campus, and I don't know if that's going to change in the sport. I don't foresee it in the near future. Probably the Canadian junior hockey piece is one piece of it, but I think that's only a piece of it today. I think if you look across all sports are starting to get younger in their recruitment. I don't know that that's a good thing, but that's how it's evolved, and hockey was probably one of the leaders in it. So what I'm optimistic about, I've told you guys before, like all these players, I feel a commitment to all of them, whether I recruited them or not. They're Spartans, and they're Spartans forever. And we're getting everything that they can give us. Every guy that's come through here, I could say, has made every effort to give us everything we've asked for. To me, where we're at is in trying to turn that corner, we have to start putting classes together where guys not just keep getting better, but class after class after class, really step up and make big contributions. You can't go with a bad class or a really small or really big number. And so that was one of the key challenges coming out of the gate, is kind of reworking our roster, because if you look back after the first year, we lost, I can't remember if it was 11 or 12 players. Well, that's half your playing roster. We didn't want to be there again. And 7 of 8 defensemen. I didn't want to go 4 years and then lose 7 of 8 defensemen again 4 years later. You ramp up and then you're going to crash. We're trying to create some level of consistency. So we did that strategically with some transfers and so on. And I think, we're working through that. And as we look back, probably a year from now, as we look back, I'm quite confident we're going to say that was the right decision to make. But we're real pleased with how our recruiting's moving forward. We're real pleased at how players are developing through. And we just think our team will keep getting better.
Tom, can you go over your forwards, exactly who are you looking for to produce the goals and just what their chances are of making a splash?
Well, I think there's a couple different places to look, Neil. If you look at last year's team, there's some players that really kind of stepped up their game. Mike Farentino being one. I think he ended up with 9 goals last year, and maybe he had a couple the year before. But he became a player last year, and he probably took his game to a higher level than we maybe forecasted. So I think he'll continue to elevate. Matt Berry, hopefully we can get him healthy. He's a natural goal scorer. He's good around the net. We had him half of the season last year and probably at 70%. So he still kind of has a nagging injury. If he can get over that, I think, he has the ability to step up. I think guys who went from freshmen to sophomores that scored a little bit last year and look really good so far early in the season, their physical conditioning, their confidence level. You look at guys like Cox and Haig and McGeckern. I think Ebbing has the potential to contribute offensively. Those guys in particular, we would expect them to take a nice positive step this year. And then, from 2 years ago, we had Brent Darnell, Matt DeBlau, Tanner Sorensen. None of those guys had the kind of years that we or they would have hoped for last year. And 2 years ago, they scored 33 of our 87 goals. Last year, they had 3 combined. So depending upon what step they take, there's potential there to really contribute offensively. And I'm not even mentioning guys like a JT Stanglin, who has a lot of junior hockey experience and has scored, and he can get himself in the lineup and contribute in that way. He's got the potential to score. And I think Dylan Pavlik does as well. I think he played in a certain role on the national team last year, but I watched him play through his youth years, and he's got good offensive ability. So I think that's why I'm so optimistic about this group of players. I think that potential to step up there. I think the other area that we have to figure a way to manufacture and generate more offense is from our defense. That team that we talked about going to the NCAA tournament a couple of years, a ton of offense came from that position. We haven't been really getting that. So we're going to try to do some things, and hopefully with some experience that the guys have gained over the past couple of years, we can get more offense from our defense.
Coach, you mentioned that players feel much closer this year as a team as they have in years past. What would you say has changed in the chemistry that has improved them so significantly?
That question is probably better served for them, because again, that's coming from them. My perception is this: it's just a natural evolution. When you have the kind of turnover that we had after my first season, when you're introducing 11 to 12 new players into the team, that's almost half of your team. And keep in mind, as freshmen, they're in the dorms. They're not living off campus or in apartments. They're in the dorms, so they spend a lot of time together. The other guys are off campus. They spend a lot of time together. And finding time for guys other than practice or workouts to be together isn't always so easy. And then, the way college hockey has grown today, you've got, guys as young as 18 and guys as, I think Dean Chelios left last year. I think he turned 25. That's a pretty big range in age. So levels of, interest and all those sorts of things. All good guys, they got along well together, but, I've been on teams that you have that special feeling where, there's a real good mix. And so I think part of it is just the natural evolution of guys being closer in class than we've had before. And, guys kind of plugging along through 2 tough seasons of hanging in there, working hard, fighting through adversity, and can see we're on the cusp of taking that step. And I think guys are excited about it. And I also think that's bringing guys together.
Tom, can you talk a little bit about what exactly Josh Jacobs will bring to this defense? Because you obviously had a good defensive team last year. You're talking about a high-end guy in the second-round pick. What specifically, though, can he bring?
Well, he has the physical skills, of a very high-level prospect. And so he has to go, obviously, implement that. But he's a big, strong kid. He's a true freshman. All four of our freshmen are true freshmen. But for his age, he's a big, strong kid. I've been real impressed, even beyond what I expected, of his tenacity, his intensity, his work habits so far. I was thinking he might be as included with the other freshmen, maybe a little behind where some of the upperclassmen might be and have to go through that adjustment period. And he'll certainly have to adjust a like everybody does when they play. But boy, his practice habits, in the little that I've seen, they've been really good. And but his skill set is high level. He handles the puck well. He skates really well. He covers a lot of ice. He can be physical. He moves the puck well. He can shoot it. So he'll develop an identity at this level. We'll have to kind of wait and see what that is. But I think he can be a contributor offensively, although I wouldn't call him an offensive defenseman. And I think he can be a very solid defensive player, although I wouldn't call him a defensive defenseman. I think he'll have a nice blend, has the potential to be a real good two-way defenseman.
When the sophomore and junior classes came in as freshmen, they had pretty big roles to fill, mostly because of the amount of players in their classes. And like you said, this freshman class is coming in to a more established team. So do you have different expectations for them, and do you think there's less pressure on them to perform well on a given night because their lines are kind of already set, and there's a bigger team now?
More pressure on, did you say
On the
everybody,
freshman class.
or on the freshman class? Well, they're going to put pressure on themselves because they're going to be eager to get in and establish themselves and try to get in the lineup. You go through a series, you're focused on yourself. You want to get yourself in the lineup, and as you get in the lineup, you want to establish yourself. You want to get more ice time. Those kinds of things. I think it's a real benefit to them, even if guys don't see it. They may say it, but whether they feel it or not, it's a benefit to them that they get to play with some more experienced players. We're not loaded with experience, but we're more experienced than we were a year ago, and way more experienced than 2 years ago. So I think it's a benefit to them. I think for a Josh Jacobs or a Carson Gatt to be able to come onto a team and go on the ice and be able to play with a guy who's played meaningful minutes in one or two Division I college seasons, that's more helpful than Walshy or Drager coming here a couple years ago and not being able to play with anybody, and we had one guy that could play with Jake who had 1 year of experience, 1 year of experience. So I do think that's a benefit. I do think they can come into an environment that they don't have to feel tons of pressure to kind of carry the load of the team, and yet at the same time, they're going to feel their own pressure, because pressure in the end is pretty much self-induced. They're going to come in and they want to contribute. They want to make a difference. We talk about with our guys, we talk about in recruiting. We've been recruiting guys to come here who have the mentality knowing we're going through a transition, and at times it's difficult. And you got to be able to stay focused, weather the storm, and keep your eye on the target. And the target is hanging banners like we see over there. And so these guys have all been recruited with that mentality. And now they'll have a chance to realize they're part of it.
Coach, can you talk about what you expect to see out of Michael Farentino this year?
I would say more of the same. He's a bit of a pit bull in how he plays. He plays with a big heart. He plays with a lot of emotion. He plays with skill and intelligence. And he does all that in about 5'8". Is that what it is? But he's a very intense competitor every single day. So, he's the kind of guy that we wanted to bring into our program to help with the turnaround. And he's one of these guys that really embraced that, and he wants to win, just like the other guys do. And he's real committed to winning. He's done a real good job in the off season. He takes the leadership role that he's earned. He takes it real seriously. It reminds me of Torrey Krug. He wants to get better. And the first things he did when he was named captain, he approached me with a list. He did some background check of previous captains at Michigan State, and he asked me if he could get their phone numbers so he can reach out to them and contact them. And I thought that was a pretty interesting approach to see what he can learn from the past. And so he takes the role real seriously. But, he's a bit of an emotional leader for the team. I think that his teammates trust him. That's why, overwhelmingly, they provided input to me that he's a guy that they feel deserves to be in that role.
Tom, is Minnesota the clear favorite to win the league, or is there, you think it's wide open, a Big Ten conference this year?
Well, on paper they would be. They have a lot of talent on their team. I'm not sure if this is accurate. I thought I read the other day that they have 8, we carry 8 defensemen, they carry 8 defensemen. They have 8 NHL draft picks as defensemen. If that's true, that's pretty impressive. There'd be two NHL draft picks sitting out every night when they play. So they had a young team last year. They're a very talented team. Strong in goal. They have a very good defense, and they have a lot of depth up front. So I think it's a fair expectation to look at them as the team to beat in the league based on their body of work, given their youth and the fact that they got to the NCAA championship game last year. Yet at the same time, I think there's a lot of parity in the league. You know, go right down to a Penn State, who's really an upstart program. They play real hard. They're very competitive. So I think any team, and this, I know this is real coach speak, but any team can win any night. And if you look at our team last year, we're going through transition, but we played some of our best games against Minnesota, who had a heck of a team and played in the Frozen Four. I don't know if any of our games, I can't remember all the scores, but I don't know if any of our games were more than a 1-goal spread. So they are probably the team to beat. They're certainly the team I picked, you know, in the preseason, and we'll all be gunning for them.
When Izzo or D'Antonio recruit, they would point to the guys they've put in the league. Torrey is your guy that is in there now, that came from you. With his new contract, with all his success he's having and attention he's getting, does that help you in recruiting? Obviously, the name Michigan State does. But when you can put guys and say, see, we can get you there, how much does that help to have the success that Torrey is? And quite frankly, take hockey out of it, that's the kind of kid, character-wise, you want on your team.
Definitely. Torrey represents everything that we want our culture, our program, our athletic department, our school to represent. His commitment to his academics, his commitment to the community, his commitment to getting better, his commitment to his team, and ultimately his performance. And so, sure, we take great pride in Torrey, but I could give you a whole list. I think we had 16 guys in the NHL last year. Some of them date back to when Coach Mason was here. We take great pride in Michigan State's history, legacy, and impact in that league, and we'll continue to do it. What's impactful in recruits today, when you talk about that, is they really associate or can identify a Torrey Krug, a Justin Advocator, a Drew Miller, as you know, these current high-profile guys, probably more so than some other guys who have been in the league, doing quite well. Well, he's a high-profile guy too, Duncan Keith for sure. You know, and I hate mentioning guys because I'm going to miss guys, but there are guys that have been in the league for 10, 12, 15 years. There's other guys who are, in Duncan's case, I mean, he's super high-profile, really hitting his stride, and he's in the prime of his career. Krug's on the upward slope, and you see Abs and Drew, and those guys are on the upward soar, and Ryan's still chugging along. So there's lots of Spartans. I think we were 4 or 5 in all of college hockey last year with the most NHL players currently. We want to keep that going.
At Big Ten Hockey Media Day, Michael Farentino bluntly said it's time to start winning some games. But what does that say about your captain, and how exciting is it to hear your captain say that? And then what does it say about the mindset of this season?
Well, all of the above, all the questions you just asked, I think it speaks volumes, because I believe everything starts with your mindset. Everything starts with the expectations. And if you expect to be average, you're going to achieve that. And the only way you can achieve championship status is to expect it and then demand it and go after it. Now, the process in getting there takes a little bit of time, and we're going through that. But I like that, especially when it comes from one of the leaders on your team, because you have to have that expectation. I can't wait till we can get back there, where every game you go into, you have that quiet confidence, that swagger, that, hey, we expect to win. I don't care where we are. I don't care what day it is. I don't care if we won yesterday or lost yesterday. That's what our expectation is today. And so that's what we aspire to get to, and we'll get there soon.
Tom, I mentioned to you about the freshmen and what you expected from them and what you needed from them. On the other side, talk about the 4 seniors and what you're going to need from them and what you expect from them going into this final season.
Well, I'm pleased with how they came back to school, like the rest of the team. You know, Matt Berry is a player that can really help our team offensively. I feel bad he's been dealing with, kind of a nagging injury, and if we can get him over that hump, both mentally and physically, because that kind of injury can really nag on you mentally. And so if we can get him over that hump, what I like about the group is my sense is there's a great sense of desperation. They what we talk about, the first year they were freshmen, they were in the NCAA tournament. They're the only players that are here right now that have been in the NCAA tournament. And when they were freshmen, they were the only players on that team that had played an NCAA tournament game. They were the only players that won a tournament game or a tournament series during their course of time. So they have some pretty valuable experience amongst the group prior to them, and certainly the group they're with now. They came back in the best shape. Now, Matt, I'm going to move out to the side because he didn't get a chance to train, really recovering from his injury that he's been dealing with. But the other guys came back. Brent Darnell's come back in the best shape in his 4 years. I think his mind's in the right place. I think his focus is in the right place. Tanner Sorensen has the potential to contribute to our team offensively, but we need him to really take a step from where he was last year. He's demonstrated in his offseason that he's prepared himself to do that. Now it's time to do it. I think R.J. Boyd's done the same thing. He really committed himself. He stayed here all summer. He's trained real hard. He's eager and hungry. He wants to play after here. He's a draft pick. He wants to play beyond here. All those guys would love to play beyond here. So I hope that all of them can take that next step to help get us over the hump, because I want to see them have the chance to benefit from the success that they've had to help us grind through the last couple of years. And, all of them didn't have the kind of years, none of them, really, with the exception of RJ. I thought his season progressed last year, but the other three guys didn't have the kind of seasons that they hoped for coming into last year. Not many teams have success without success from their seniors in any sport. And so even though we have a small class, it'd be nice to see those guys have lots of success and enjoy success from the transition we've been going through and they've been a part of.
Tom, obviously the release today about the renovations to MUN. Can you talk a little bit about, I know you alluded to it earlier, what exactly do you see those renovations being, and what exactly does that do for the program long term to get MUN up to speed 40 years after it was built?
Well, I think it just keeps MUN current in both player and fan amenities over time that both show well and are practical things to add to a facility like that. So I'll just start with the things that took place this summer. The ice surf is probably the most important part from our perspective and the player perspective, because that's where you spend all your time. The ice is terrific. The boards and glass are really player friendly. They meet the NHL specifications. The glass that we have now is more body friendly. Not that concussions are in the news or anything, but it's a lot easier on your head than that tempered glass that doesn't budge. So the boards you'll see when we play, our boards here have always been traditionally lively, and they're going to be every bit, maybe even more so than in the past. So we're real excited about that. Then you look at the next steps that are coming. We're adding some lighting. We've already had these new lights put in, which have been a nice addition. We're adding some additional lighting that will really add to the ambiance of the facility, more so for the fans, and certainly our players feed off the fans. We'll be adding video boards and scoreboards that will really be game changers in this building. And then, adding new seats to this building is going to change the whole appearance to it. And as we keep going on with player amenities, locker room areas, all that kind of stuff as it comes down the road, it's just going to turn what, to me, is already a terrific environment and great hockey building into an even better building. So there's not a bad seat in this house. I get to talk to season ticket holders all the time who've had their seats for 40 years, and people love being able to watch a game. You're close to the action. I think all these other things are just going to add to the environment. And in the end, when you bring players here or prospects here, they want to play in a great environment. Between our student section In the last couple of years, we've been in the top 10 in attendance. We want to continue for that to grow, where we're selling out every night, and that will happen as we continue to win with consistency. This is just be an off-the-charts environment to play in, that every player is going to want to play in.
What am I? I'm fascinated by the goal scoring lack of it you've talked about. I'm looking at your list. I don't think anyone that's played here in the last 15 years is even in your top 30 of goal scoring. I know it's changed, but I saw Mike Donnelly score 57, and he was just a good player. Can you coach goal scoring, or do you have to recruit it?
No, I think you have to recruit it. I do think you have to recruit the skill set that goes into goal scoring. At the same time, because I'll give you an example. Matt Berry is a goal scorer. He's a goal scorer. And he has a nose for the net. He'll go to those areas that are tough to go to, and that's why he scores goals. And he's done it at every level that he's played. It's very unusual to see somebody who has never scored in their life all of a sudden score goals at this level. So you look at history for sure. Strategically, however, you can also do things to increase your probability to score if you can execute them. And those are the things that, as we're improving our talent level and our skill set, we're looking to try to expand how we play from an offensive standpoint. And that starts right in your own zone. So we've examined our game very closely to see how can we tweak it to improve and give ourselves a higher probability to create scoring chances that will then result in the opportunity to score more goals. So recruiting is definitely a part of it. It's been a focus for us the past few years. Guys like I mentioned, McEachern and Haig. Cox has, why he's not been a huge goal scorer. He's had goal scoring history. Stenglin, he's had lots of scoring history. Those guys have been brought in for that reason, to help us improve our offensive ability. We're doing the same on defense. You'll see guys come in here over the next couple of years that have a history of creating offense and even scoring goals from back in the blue line.
Tom, when you first got here, one of the things you talked about was the idea of playing that offensive style, even if it meant losing. Has that been harder to do than you imagined, just to remain competitive?
It's interesting you ask that. I think we've lost games at times because we have not wavered from the philosophy of trying to play more up-tempo and more on the attack. And the reason we've done that is we feel it's really important to our recruiting to be able to attract the kind of players we're targeting, to demonstrate to them, and not just tell them when you get here we're going to change our style, but rather, here's how we're playing. Watch us. And as we get guys that can play with that skill level at that tempo, we're going to get better and better and better. Yesterday, we've been doing a pretty in-depth study of our game with some of these advanced statistics that you read about. And it was interesting. I had asked a group to help us study how we're playing in sections of the game, and I won't bore you with the details at this point, how we play compared to NCAA championship contending teams and Stanley Cup contending teams. And the data overwhelmingly supported what we're doing is very consistent with those elite teams. So that's on the good side. On the area that we have to improve is our execution of the things that we're doing. And that goes to our skill set, our experience, our ability to do it at a higher tempo. And that's what we'll be focusing our game on. We came out of last season thinking that we felt we made progress with that, but we have to take bigger steps to get better results. And so we're staying on that course. We feel that playing with tempo, being on the attack, being very aggressive, trying to be a puck possession team, to be a championship caliber team, you have to be good at those things, from your own zone on out. Goes without saying you have to be a good defensive team. But we're staying with that philosophy because we think we're right on track. We just have to be able to perform better and execute better than we have to date. Is that answering what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for Coach?